Hi, Beth Strathman here. Just a quick leadership tip. Today I'm talking about availability, making yourself availability. This is related to your ability to focus at work. And I'm thinking about availability because I was working with a client recently who expressed the idea that she felt like she needed to be available all the time to whoever wanted to access her knowledge or come and ask her a question or brainstorm some thinking, whatever it was. And of course it caused her a lot of stress and frustration, because that availability idea that she had led her to have a lot of interruptions when she didn't want to be interrupted. But she couldn't get past the notion that she needed to be this open person who invited people in, etc. So there's a whole other piece to this, but it kind of made me think that this availability idea is, a lot of people share this notion. But when you think about it, when you're in a meeting, sequestered in a conference room, for example, or you're on a phone call or a video conference, and it's a dedicated time for that meeting, you don't feel like you need to be available to everybody else at that. I mean, most people don't anyway, right? And neither would this client that I'm referring to. But for some reason, without that structure where, I have a legitimate excuse for not being available to you, we have a hard time setting parameters around our availability. So this idea of being too available, causing a lot of stress, can really be a tough issue for a lot of people. So a couple of thoughts on that. First of all, obviously your availability needs to work with your workday and the people that you interface with, whether that's customers, team members, direct reports, colleagues, whomever, your boss, etc. Board members if you're a CEO. So you have to basically prioritize your availability. You have to look at, when can I be available for just anybody who wants to drop by? Because guess what? You don't need to be open and available 100% of the time to 100% of the people. That's not practical. And it's going to drive you crazy like it did this client. So figure out when can I even structure some time to just have an open door where people can come in, come and go, where I'm not going to be frustrated because I'm not going to be working on heavy duty stuff right then. But also recognizing that you have your own task work to do. Even if you're high in the leadership ranks of your organization, you still have task work to do. So, you're going to have to sometimes just, particularly when it's heavy, it takes a lot of mental power to do those tasks. Sometimes you just need to give yourself permission to shut the door for an hour, hour and a half, whatever it is, half an hour if that's all it takes, and not be interrupted and say, I am not available to at least most people during this time. And you can always communicate with your team or an administrative assistant to let them know, hey, I'm going to be shutting my door because I have this thing I have to work on and it needs my full attention. So barring an emergency, please, refrain from knocking on my door or even just opening my door. So prioritize those times when you're available, when those are, where you're available, to whom you're available, etc. And then I think the second important thing is communicate that availability. Don't assume that people can read your mind and they necessarily know that a closed door means keep out. I have seen this in organizations where it seems like a closed door just means, hey, everybody else but you can come in. And I've seen people just open a closed door to find people in a pretty heavy discussion, thinking that for some reason it was okay for them to interrupt. You have to train the people around you, particularly your team, your direct reports, that a closed door means do not come in unless it's an emergency, and here's how we define emergency. Okay. You can also use for that communication any administrative assistant you have to help them know that they're the gatekeeper during those times. And here's who can come in, can knock on my closed door during this time, and why, other reasons why people may be able to come in. But you're in charge of making yourself available or not available. And of course, we can also go to the other extreme. I've seen some people who always have a closed door. They just don't like dealing with people. That's not what we're talking about here in this video, but that is a problem for some people. I'm talking about people who are stressed out because they're too available. So prioritize when, where, and for whom you are available, as it makes sense. And communicate what that availability is, whether it's on your calendar or you're communicating it directly to a group of people or through your administrative assistant. So that is my tip for today. And you're going to want to click on the link to my Leadership Impact Quiz so that you can discover additional areas where you can have a more positive impact in your organization as a leader. Thanks.